Шановний пане ректор, дорогі студенти, вітаю вас всіх. And this is where I was going to English. First of all, it's really a great pleasure for me to be here. And this is not just empty words, because under this weather conditions, seeing many of you on the street and Mr. Rector, it's the Ukrainian soul. We saw that, and I think here we have many in common, much in common between Turkey and Ukraine, because you know very well that Turkish people are also very friendly people. We love guests. That's why we are very successful at tourism. I see that Ukraine also has a great potential in tourism, and you are slowly turning that into business. First, a few words on Turkish foreign policy, and then a few words on Turkish-Ukrainian relations. Now, of course, every country has its own foreign policy traditions, has its own école of diplomacy, and we, as Turkish diplomats, we are always proud of our diplomacy école. Why is that? Because practice makes perfect. If you look at where Turkey is located, if you look at the problems faced by Turkey, politically, militarily, geostrategically, this always teaches a Turkish diplomat right from the start. This has always been the key to success of all countries. As future diplomats, as future governors, as future mayors, as future successful entrepreneurs, you will always have the first step. You will always face a time where you have to make a decision. When that time comes, your inner voice always gives you a good advice. Listen to it. That's my personal experience speaking. It's not an easy region. Turkey, Ukraine, we are located at a very, very difficult geostrategic location. The problems we face are unique to us. Many countries who give you advice on how to solve these problems have no experience of these problems at all. So the advices are mostly superficial, artificial. The solutions you generate should be your own and not written elsewhere, not dictated from somewhere else. And this is actually one of the key understandings when my president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, goes to New York, to UN headquarters, and says the world is bigger than 5. Yes, the UN system has 5 permanent members, but the problems of the world today cannot be solved by those 5 countries. A system which we inherited from a post-Second World War environment is not working today anymore. The problems we face today, migration, inequality, all of these require a unified response. All of these require a collective response, where countries which did not have such a strong role or voice in the system should now be listened to. Now, if we look at Turkey and Ukraine, we see two rising stars. Ukraine is a young country, 30 years is not much. Some of the faces I see here, probably you are in the early 20s, perhaps teenagers, so you don't even remember when your country became independent. But for countries, 30 years isn't much. But when we look at it from Turkey, a country which created itself after a devastating war 100 years ago, we see that you have achieved a lot. We respect that. And many of your achievements came under extremely difficult circumstances when you were fighting for your territorial integrity. Well, on territorial integrity, you know that Turkey is a solid defender of Ukraine's territorial integrity, including Crimea. And we view Ukraine as a very important critical partner to our north, to the north of Black Sea, and a regional partner. We were discussing with your amazingly energetic rector during a few minutes ago how problems of one region should mainly be solved by countries of that region. Of course, we are open to cooperation with international partners. Of course, we are open to ideas, suggestions, but problems of one specific region should be solved by countries of that specific region. Now, with that understanding, let me turn to Turkey-Ukraine relations. And this is something very easy to do because we have excellent relations. And that is not because I am ambassador here, but because our countries have a natural connection between them. Now, we are actually two countries which are very closely located. In fact, we are so close that Turkish Airlines cannot show a full movie between Ankara and Kiev. It's too short a flight. You cannot watch the movie. You have to fast forward to see the end of the movie. So, unfortunately, because of geostrategic reasons, because of the history, the way history flows, we thought that we were too distant from one another. We lived in different worlds until 30 years ago. During the last 30 years, we started to realize that, in fact, we are not that far and we're not that different from one another. That is why, in 2019, 1.5 million Ukrainians went to Turkey for holidays. That is why, that same year, 300,000 Turks came to Ukraine for holidays. That is why our governments first extended the stay duration of tourists from 30 days to 60. Then we said 60 is not enough. We made it 90. Then we said, okay, this is not enough. Let's remove the visas. Then we said, even this is not enough. Let's go with ID cards. So now Ukraine is one of 3 countries with which we have travel with ID card possible. And that is a signal by the governments how much attention they pay to people-to-people connection, people-to-people communication. And this is extremely important because it creates dialogue. Dialogue creates trade. Dialogue creates investment. This creates jobs. This generates taxes. So, in essence, our dialogue, our interaction is a huge positive boost for our common goal to grow together, to be richer together, to prosper together, and to be stronger together. So, on one hand, we are cooperating in tourism. On the other hand, we are cooperating in defense industry. We are uniting our forces in different sectors together. So when we put 1 and 1 together, it's not 2, it's 11. When we put 2 and 2 together, it's not 4, it's 22. We have an amazing potential, and we are only beginning to realize that potential. So, when you look at the figures, we have about $5 billion of trade, about $3.5 billion of Turkish investment here. These are important amounts, billions of dollars. But when you take Turkey, when you take Ukraine, when you see 120 million people with such great potential living just 2 hours from one another, we should double these figures. Mr. Rector and I, we are working very hard for that. We are doing the infrastructure. But at the end of the day, it is up to you. It is up to the future generations. You have more energy than us. You have brighter ideas than us. Yes, I love a saying, great ideas not only require wings, but also landing gears, so that you won't crash when the idea turns into reality. But your wings are bigger than us. Your wings carry us higher. That's why university-to-university contacts is amazingly important. Another reason why I love coming to universities, speaking with university students, is because you ask the toughest questions. And that makes us rethink our strategies. If we are making something wrong, if we can make something differently in a better way, I get amazing inspirations from the questions or comments I get from the students. It was a very interesting feeling when I went to the university which I graduated from 15 years later as a diplomat, and I made a presentation. And the questions that were asked to me were far different than the questions I am used to be asked. From the journalists, from colleagues, from other countries' diplomats. University students, they're a different animal. I love it, I respect it, and your university is giving you enormous opportunities. You have indeed an excellent university. Mr. Rector is really very praiseworthy for all his initiatives in this regard. And we have today agreed on how to further cooperate between our universities. And one of the key duties for us this year will be on finding more partners for this amazing university, for these amazing students, to create new opportunities for you. And we have a few ideas in mind, but let's not spoil the surprise. We will give the results when the results are there. So, as a member of a Ministry of Foreign Affairs who has 248 diplomatic missions abroad, which makes Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs the MFA with 5th biggest diplomacy network in the world. As a Turkish diplomat who is proud to be a part of the team, Turkish diplomacy team, which takes pride in extending humanitarian assistance to all corners of the world, to Africa, to different parts of the world where you have all sorts of conflicts. A ministry which says entrepreneurial and humanitarian diplomacy is what we need today. I am really grateful for all these opportunities that were presented to me today. I am grateful for having the chance to talk with you, to interact with you. If you have any questions, any ideas, I'll be more than happy to hear them. And we, as the embassy here, believe in the bright future of Ukraine. We believe in the bright future of Turkey. And we believe in the bright future of Turkish-Ukrainian cooperation. Thank you very much.
Давайте подякуємо надзвичайному і повноважному послу Туреччини пану Ягмуру Ахмеду Гульдере за маленьку цікаву доповідь. Але я хочу сказати, що наш університет є членом Європейської асоціації університетів, Європейської асоціації міжнародної освіти, Балтійської програми, Великої хартії університетів, мережі класичних університетів прикордонного співробітництва, мережі університетів Східної Європи, Балтійської мережі програми університетів, Норвезько-Український альянс університетів. А ми сьогодні з паном послом думаємо, як започаткувати турецько-український альянс університетів. Наш університет вже співпрацює з університетом Мармара, Стамбульським університетом Райдін, університетом Чукурова, університетом Намі Кемаля, університетом Гірне. Тобто ми маємо вже тільки в стінах нашого університету 5 вузів-партнерів з Туреччини. Сьогодні, завдячуючи послу, в нас відкриваються унікальні можливості саме для вас, молодих, креативних, нестандартно думаючих студентів. Не бійтеся їхати в Туреччину, особливо дівчата. Але прошу вас, назад повертайтеся. Можете з їхніми принципами. Розвивати треба стосунки. Сьогодні ми з паном послом мали унікальну можливість розробити певні вектори, яким чином ми можемо бути корисні один одному. Є закон, єдиний, непохитний, а життя безжалісно просте. Має право жити тільки сильний переможе все. Туреччина показує, як з 43-го місця переміститися в G20. Туреччина входить в 20-ку найрозвинутіших країн світу. Давайте будемо, приклад, брати старших. Точніше, сильних, не старших, сильних. Сьогодні пан посол дуже гарно сказав. Ми в Україні не бачимо, що ми туди можемо заходити як в колонію. Ми бачимо партнера. І є дуже багато відкритих тем, і зокрема в освіті, де ми можемо бачити один одного партнера. Тому я прошу вас, дорогі студенти, все, що вас цікавить, питайте посла. Унікальна можливість задати питання надзвичайному і повноважному послу Туреччини в Україні, пану Ягмуру Ахмед Гульдере. Хто бажає питання задавати? Іде.
First of all, Termabene hoş geldiniz, Sayın Dökülçü. We are all happy to see you here. And my name is Victoria. I'm a fourth year student and I study international law. And so I have a question that deals with it. So you said about a lot of problems that we face today. And I want to ask you, what do you think about the future development of international law? Because it's like an instrument with which we can solve a lot of problems. So what do you think about it, about the future development of international law? And also one more question, like little one. What do you recommend? How to stay being motivated in these hard times with coronavirus, and how to stay positive and have this patience to study.
Okay, for international law, law is a very difficult concept. You know better than many others. The law has to be implemented neutrally, with objectivity, to everybody. If you implement law to one group in one particular way, but you treat others with different standards, then there is a problem. No matter how good the law is written, the way you implement it is actually even more important sometimes. So the international codification we have today is the result mostly of a post-World War II order. The challenges of that time were different. There are, of course, in the process, new elements which have been introduced into international law, be it maritime law or others. But the thing is, when it comes to the implementation of this international system, there are enormous double standards. And that is one of the key problems of the international system today. When some countries do not see others as equal, when some countries try to impose the international system on others in a way that fits their own domestic agenda, but not with objectivity, and when other countries who are subject to this treatment feel it, and this starts an antagonization between countries. The system of international relations functions best when the countries are looking for common points. It gets stopped, it gets blocked, it stops working when countries start doing their own things. And when, for instance, it comes to the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh, I think that's a very clear example. For 30 years, the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan was disrespected. There was a mechanism called Minsk Group, but the group did not actually function at all. So Azerbaijan's territorial integrity was left only on paper. So there came a time when Azerbaijan said, this doesn't work anymore. So it had to resolve to its own way of solving the problem. And even under these circumstances, when Azerbaijan was conducting a military operation in its own territory, it was criticized for conducting something it shouldn't be doing. This is unthinkable. So these are examples of inequality, injustice, which hurts the international system. You don't have justice, you have double standards, even triple, quadruple standards. This doesn't work. So we really need a new way of thinking on that. And as for how to stay motivated in Corona, I would advise you to change your birth date. If you're a Gemini, like me, you find a positive energy somewhere, somehow. But the joke aside, keeping yourself busy, setting yourself targets, and moving towards that target is always the best way. I served for 2 years in Brussels. This was the period when Turkey started accession talks with the EU as a potential member country. And there is a very valuable lesson, which was not very political. In those 2 years, I noticed that in Brussels, it rains all the time. So you cannot make any plans to wait for the sun. You just say, I'm going to do this, take an umbrella and do the plan. So for Corona, the same thing. Corona is there. It's not going to disappear tomorrow. you put your goals ahead of you, you do those, and the corona will do what it wants.
Дякую, пане посол. Будь ласка, в кого ще які запитання? Будь ласка.
Good afternoon, dear ambassador. I have a question personal for you. What is your personal thought about educational cooperation with Ukraine? And what are your predictions of Turkish-Ukrainian educational alliance? Thank you.
The education system in Ukraine is very strong. And especially, for instance, I am sorry to say that in Turkey, the studies on Ukraine are not at the same level as Turkey is studying in Ukraine. So this is something which I personally try to address. I speak with the universities, I speak with our Ministry of Education. So on that, you have a very good ground. You have many very important, very successful universities. Now, what we can do together as Turkish and Ukrainian universities, we have also discussed this with Mr. Rector. We can think of joint programs between universities where we can exchange the students working in a certain discipline. We can, for instance, try to send the students of tourism and hotel education here in Ukraine to Turkish universities where they can study and do practice at the same time, maybe in Istanbul, maybe in Antalya, maybe even in Kayseri or Erzurum, where now many Ukrainians are going for winter tourism. For medical tourism, also medical education. So we have a huge potential, and I think with time we will increase the amount of cooperation. Also, of course, last year was a bad example. Because of Corona, everything got messed up. But with the vaccination, with the healing process, I think there will come a time when we will be doing this conversation maybe in Turkey with you.
Закінчиться корона, всі поїдемо в Туреччину. Hello, Peter?
Okay, so my name is Blessed from my fourth year student. Okay, so I would like to divert a little bit from what you're discussing. Okay, so I'm pro tech. And I've read stories and I've seen a lot of articles about Turkish relationship with other countries. And all of them seem to portray Turkey as manipulative and strategic. And I want to know that. I want you to know that I'm pro Turkey. And what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on all these kind of articles that are circulated on the internet?
Look, of course, every country is important. Every country is important for itself. Every country is important for its region, and every country is important for the world in differing amounts, in differing levels. But every country is important. Now, Turkey is a rather unique example because Turkey is the descendant of Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire was a global power, and therefore Turkey sees itself as a Balkan country. We belong to Balkans. We see ourselves as an Eastern European country. We see ourselves as a Eurasian country. We see ourselves as a Black Sea country. We see ourselves as a Caucasus country. We see ourselves as a Middle Eastern country. We see ourselves as Mediterranean. So when you combine all of these, that is where the highest clearest picture of Turkey's strategic value comes in. But of course, every bit of strategic value which adds up is another challenge for you. Also, the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire brought a lot of unresolved conflicts, some of which we still try to address even today as we speak. And we had a very difficult heritage. We had a very difficult problem in terms of paying the debts from the Ottoman Empire, healing the wounds of a nation which shrank from a global power to a regional power, but a power nonetheless. You take your strength from your history, you take your strength from your roots, and the more you believe in yourself, the stronger you become. In order to be strong, you first have to believe in your strength. With Ukraine, for instance, today we have a very good relation. We are very strong. But this is not a story of 30 years. You know, one of the things which I consider myself very successful in is one specific project. Ukraine has a very short independence story in the beginning of 20th century, the Ukraine People's Republic. Ottoman leaders were almost also as clever as Turkey's leaders. So when Ukraine People's Republic was established, we immediately appointed an ambassador to Kiev. We found where this embassy was located. It's in the Premier Palace Hotel today. So we went to the hotel, discussed with the owners, discussed with the management. They said, okay. Then we went to Kiev City Council. We gave a petition. We went to the meetings. We defended our petition. They said, okay. As a result of that, we put a memorial plaque on Premier Palace. It says, Embassy of Ottoman Empire to the Ukraine's People's Republic functioned in this building in 1918-1919. That is actually a very important plaque. It shows not only that a certain person worked in a certain building. It says people of this region knew how important each other was 100, 200, 300 years ago. Khmelnytsky, he formed an alliance with Istanbul, with the Ottomans. Of course, then he also had problems with the Ottomans as well, but that is how things go. National interest, history, and a clear vision. That's diplomacy, that's national strength.
Thank you. Хто ще бажає?
We are all very glad to welcome you here in Ukraine, especially in our university. And I want to add some words from me because I study at Marmara University, thanks to our university. And so I want to say some words, and I agree with you that you told that we are very similar nationalities. I can say that both our nationalities are very warm, and I can feel it even now. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous to talk in public because it's a very big honor to speak with such people like you.
We're just chatting between friends, come on.
Okay. So I just want to say that to be a student in Marmara University in Istanbul, it was a very valuable experience for me. And I always recommend all people which I meet to go abroad, especially to go in Turkey, because I was never thinking that Turkey is such a rich country, rich in culture, in everything, really. So I want to ask you about our cooperation. I really want that all students could have opportunity to go to Turkey like a student, to live there and to be there.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry for not responding to you in Turkish. You apparently also speak Turkish very well, like her. Teşekkürler. Yeah?
Teşekkürler ederim.
Super. Listen, like your university, my university is also a very young and energetic university. I'm a graduate of Bilkent University. It's the first private university in Turkey. And our university also is developing very rapidly. But after Bilkent, many other private universities started, and now also we have almost a university in each city of Turkey. So this creates a lot of opportunities. You see, relations between countries are like a snowball. Someone first has to climb up and send the ball down. On the way, it becomes bigger, bigger and bigger, and you shouldn't be waiting at down, because otherwise you'll be at the avalanche sway. You have to be part of that. So the 2 years which I spent here, I saw many universities from Turkey come here. We went with them to KPI in Kiev, we went to the Aviation University, we went to others. There's a great interest in Turkey. So what we are now trying to do is finding the best match for each university. We also, of course, have our own scholarship program, the Big Turkey program, where we host every year thousands of students from all over the world. But this is, of course, limited when you compare it with the possibilities of cooperation exchange between the universities. So, again, just like the trade, 5 billion, it's good, but not enough. 5 universities, it's good, but not enough. So we are now increasing them. We have an education attaché in Kiev. Together with him, we are going to universities. We are talking with rectors, prorectors to discuss projects. We are twinning universities, we are twinning faculties. And I think, again, you as students, you should be going to your prorectors, to your administrators, and say, I want to go to Turkey, I want an exchange program. You know, because in life, nothing is free. You have to earn it, you have to ask for it, you have to work for it. So there is a positive energy at the administration. We are ready, but we cannot think of everything at the same time. You have to come and tell us. You lived in Turkey, form an association, get in touch with, have a group on Facebook, on Instagram. Talk to people. Think of which university is the best. Now, for instance, I am trying to encourage Antalya University to open a department on Ukrainian language and culture. So this is how things go. But internship, exchange programs, twinning programs, we are supporting it 115%. Just give us ammunition so that we will work for them.
Thank you. Шановні колеги, мені вже показують, що це не обов'язково зробити питання, що вау, вже треба закінчувати. А я кажу, просто пан посол спішить до губернатора, а я скажу, що його студенти не відпустили. Так і пишіть. То чому? Тому що я вас прошу, не будьте скромними. Скромність – перший ступінь забуття. Ми сьогодні з паном послом говорили про 2 наших студентів-випускників. Віктор Ющенко навчався на бухгалтерському обліку в нас, а став президентом України. Людмила Марченко навчалася в нас на фінансах по спеціальності оподаткування, а стала народним депутатом, міжнародним дипломатом, членом Україно-турецької дружби. Людмила, привіт. Шкода, що тебе немає. Друзі, я прошу вас, студентів, замучте нашого посла питаннями. Ви хотіли ще щось запитати? Питайте.
Good afternoon. Very glad to see you here. My name is Mariana, and I'm first year student. I study at the Institute of International Relations. Do you think that the Crimean platform will create an effective solution to the problems of the Crimean Tatars? And how do you think the role of Turkey in this regard?
Very good question. Yeah, your institute is following actual issues. That's very good, practical issues, not ancient theories of international relations, but actual questions of today. So very good. That's a positive sign. Now, problems of Crimean Tatars is one thing. Role of the platform is another thing. These are two different things. Why? Because the platform is an idea which is created in order to boost international awareness about the problem of Crimea, about Ukraine's territorial integrity, and it foresees different sets of equipments with which this will be realized. For that, I know that in August this year there is a planned summit. There will also be other levels between foreign ministers and academicians and experts. We, as Turkey, already declared our support, our welcoming of this initiative when President Zelensky was in Turkey in October. There was a joint statement signed by President Erdogan and President Zelensky, where Turkey officially welcomed this initiative. Now, as for the problems of Crimean Tatars, that's another dimension, and it's a very difficult and tragic dimension, I must say, because Crimean Tatars, I think it's one of the people to which recent history has been most cruel to. They were on the process of recovering from the wounds of the deportation of 44, where an impossibly inhumane treatment was done, and tens of thousands of people just died on trains. Just as they were going back to their lands, now they were faced with another tragedy. So now, together with Ukraine, we are trying to do all we can to support Crimean Tatars. They need housing, they need education, they need place for praying. So for all of these, we are trying to fund projects, we are trying to realize projects in Kiev, in Kherson, in other parts of Ukraine, in Dnipro. Wherever I go, I always ask about them. I always try to meet with them, to talk to them. And we, together with Ukraine, we have agreed on building housing for Crimean Tatars. So we are now in touch with the Office of the President to finalize how many houses, where that's needed, together with Crimean Tatar leaders, of course. We are every week, basically, in touch with the Crimean Tatar leaders in Kiev. So it's a moral obligation for us to actually stand together, and this is also another bridge which connects our countries in pure human ways.